6, 4. I don't know why it doesn't count down from 5, but there we have it. Anyway, here we are into the game. Let's see what happens, and welcome back everyone to game number 3 in the best of 5 series between Shark Slayer and TheeHank for Division A. Group 3 in round 1 of the Australian Open. We have a bit of a pause at the beginning of the game, which is nice because it lets me get out that opening blurb. Now, obviously, 1-1 the score stands as Hank manages to take a victory off Shark Slayer. Very, not the easiest thing to do. Shark, obviously, a very strong player. And now we have Hank's home map, which by the looks of it, oh, thank God, we see Arabia, which is fantastic. I love casting Arabian matches. Now, as I said, this is Shark's home. I'm not sure if I said Shark's home map or Hank's, but this is Shark's home map, and it was a hidden civilization pick once again. Let's introduce the man himself, playing down here toward the south of the map in the blue trunks. As the Aztecs, we see Shark Slayer and his opponent today up to the sort of northwestern corner of the map, playing in the red trunks. The man himself from Kiwiland. We have TheeHank also playing as the Aztecs. Now, quite interesting as well. Hidden civilization picks, obviously, and they're both, once again, just like the previous game, chosen the same civilization. Now let's have a look at the maps. Both playing as the Aztecs, and we'll discuss that a little in some detail in just a little bit. But let's have a quick look at their maps for the time being and see what we could maybe expect to be seeing. So in terms of Hank, he does have a wood towards the back of his base, but it is sort of obscured a little bit by this oasis. So he's deciding to go for the other wood line towards the back of his base, which is a very nice option for him. Let me turn the chat off so I don't have to have Pyro going ahead and saying that stuff to me. Anyway, okay, what have we got here? We do have his main gold out here toward the sort of southern edge of his base. It's not too far away from the town center, so if any pressure does come in here, he should be in an okay spot to hightail it back to safety, so that's all well and good in the hood for him. 2 stones out on the front of his map. Now, I always mention this whenever there's an Aztec war. Stones is going to be very importante if the game goes late, because the meta for the Aztecs is, as we will very soon see, I don't doubt, a drush in the Dark Age rather, and then into the Castle Age. We're going to be into the Castle Age. It'll be crossbows most probably, sometimes eagles if the situation arises, but most of the time we're going to be seeing late games going into Jaguar warriors and onagers, which is so much fun to watch. I remember watching a few professional expert players in Aztec Wars, so these stones are going to be very important for Hank to try and lock down as the game goes on. What else can we see? Well, we can see he's got a secondary gold out here toward the eastern corner or edge of his map, quite far away. Quite unfortunate for him. That's not one of his golds. That's an extra gold. This looks like it's his last gold, well out here on the front of his base. And all in all, his map pretty bloody open, pretty bloody unfortunate for him. And he's going to want to be playing very aggressively in this game, or either that or very defensively. I would say aggressive is probably the way to go here. Let's go over and have a look at Shark's base. First thing I noticed right here, this is not what you want to see on an Arabian map. This is not what you want. This hill is really nasty for Shark. He's got one of his stones sitting at the top of it. Never nice for him. Main gold sitting on this hill as well, which means hill bonuses galore for Hank as he pushes into the economy of Shark from this sort of area here. He does have a nice wood, a nice substantial amount of wood here, but again on a hill, really nasty for him. Any towers, archers, crossbows, anything coming in from here going to prove to be a little bit of a pain in the neck for our player from Australia here. He's even got friggin' hills toward the back and the west and the right hand side of his base as well. This is really unfortunate for Shark, but it should be okay if he does push out and take map control. Where's his main gold? I've already mentioned that. Of course I have. He's got one of his golds, another one of his golds out here, quite far away from his base, and his other gold sitting pretty directly in the back of his base. And I'm struggling to find his extra stone, and it's because it's right out here. So both of his stones out on the front of his base, just like Hank's. Now, as I was saying, both of these players, their maps aren't great, to be honest. It's going to be hard to be able to get this wall off going across the front. uh, of Shark's base. Although to be fair, he probably could go from there and then maybe up here to this cliff and then walling here could be an option for him, and then plugging the holes here. Pretty substantial, pretty elaborate walls, but if he really wants to go for it, then he will. And as I was saying earlier, drushes are what we normally see from Aztec players, owing to the fact they have 100 gold right off the bat, as well as loom for free, so they can go ahead and they can go ahead, chuck up a barracks, pump out 5 militia, and head on over to their opponent and do some serious damage in the early stages of the game. The barracks normally comes up at 6.5 minutes, and we can see a 7.5 minutes barracks coming in from Shark, and it almost looks like Hank is going to be wanting to start constructing his barracks in this sort of region here as well, and that's awfully late for a drush. Obviously, queuing 5 militia up means that your drush is going to be getting over there a lot later than another a typical 3 militia drush. So I'm not really sure what these guys are going for. Maybe they're going to be going for man at arms instead, because what you often want to do as the Aztecs is drush fast castle, but that means that you're going to be wanting to go for a wall as well. And both of these, or neither of these players, have a very simplistic wall off, as we've already discussed. So we can see that the barracks coming up here at this time could indicate man at arms, or it could just indicate trying to fake out your opponent, or maybe that they're both going to be going for archers. We'll have to pay attention to what population, what villager amount these two players do advance to the feudal age on, and whether or not they do actually create any militia. Although it says to me, I suppose this villager was a wood villager. We can see Shark actually clicking up to the feudal age now, going up on 23 pop. So oh, that's unlucky for Hank. Really, really nice awareness there from Shark. But we're going to be seeing either archers or men-at-arms coming in from Shark. And I hope that we see men-at-arms, because a man-at-arms transition to archers is a really, really strong build, so long as you catch your opponent unaware. Hank also clicking up to the feudal age now on 20. Where is his villager amount? 22. Which would have been a 23 pop-up, but we can see, uh, okay, a man-at-arms forward towers rush. Looks like what Shark is going to be going for here, as he's queued up 1 militia already. Hank, on the other hand, what is he doing? Is he moving out to gold? No, he has a building villager out there, but is she building a mining camp? No, she's building some walls, and okay. So we're seeing walls coming in from Hank, which makes this man-at-arms forward going to be very, very super strong from Shark Slayer, as obviously best things to punch through walls in the feudal age are men-at-arms and towers as well. And this is the thing now as well. Hank has absolutely no idea that this is coming. Sure, he knows the barracks is up, but he doesn't know the stone has been taken, obviously, because he lost his Eagle Scout. So he is going to be pretty much in the dark, and that could be a contributing factor as to why he's walling up partially here. And I've noticed another thing, that Hank really doesn't like to split his lumber camps at all either. He prefers to oversaturate it to the maximum ability that he can. But here we go, the villagers coming forward, 4 villagers going forward, double bitax coming in as well. That's not 4 villagers, you can't count. That's 5 villagers, man-at-arms, double bitax, and we're going to be seeing watchtowers coming up from Shark Slayer in multiple places of Hank's economy. What have we got? Well, he's going to place it right outside the stone. This is reminiscent of the first matchup between these two players that we saw, and this is a huge, huge. This is a great play from Shark. Obviously, these two watchtowers here are going to zone off these stone piles for Hank and make it even more difficult to stop any sort of tower rush or trush that might be coming in. Hank doing the right thing, trying to funnel up in towards his town centre, stop these men-at-arms really getting into any sort of area of his economy where they're going to do any sort of huge amounts of damage. But an archery range now coming up for Hank, leaving 1 villager idle down here. Not can't really blame him. He's got a little bit of pressure to deal with, but he had moved out to gold, and we are going to be seeing archers coming in from him, as well as double layer palisade walls. 2 villagers over on the gold. There is not enough gold income to keep the archers coming out of 1 archery range constantly. He does have 1 archer coming out now, and obviously the best way to counter the man-at-arms, at least in the early game, is to get either man-at-arms yourself or to get those archers coming out nice and fast. We see a forward archery range being dropped now as well for Shark. He's going really, really aggressive on this. Obviously, he's still got 4 villagers back home on stone, and he's going to be in an okay position to be able to push back. Oh, sorry, to be able to continue to tower hop into the economy here of Hank. Now, what is Hank's what is Hank's response going to be? The skirmishes are going to be coming out, I can only imagine. I don't think he's moved out to gold. No, Shark has not moved out to gold yet, so he's going to be going forward with skirmishes, and that's going to make it really, really difficult for Hank as he throws up a blacksmith, obviously, to get that all-important fletching upgrade. Is exactly what he's going to be wanting to grab. But as I was saying, the archers coming out from Fletch from Hank going to be really, really hard pressed to do absolutely anything in terms of defensive plays. Defensive watchtower being thrown up inside the or near the wood line of Hank here, but no, it's going to be really, really hard for Hank now. Obviously, the forward skirmishes that are inevitably going to be coming out uh, from Shark, and there we are, skirmishes popping out now as well, are going to be able to deal a lot of damage to the archers here of Hank. What Hank needs to do now, really, take these villagers off gold, seed some farms, and go ahead and start creating skirmishes of his own, because skirmishes against skirmishes are going to fare a lot better for Hank than skirmishes against, than archers against skirmishes, and he is seeding a lot of farms, so he is going to be looking to transition into the skirmisher build, but he doesn't need this amount of gold. This is just wasted villages at the moment, because he isn't going to be making any units that consist of gold, or that cost gold rather, and he's going to be starting to stack or stockpile that gold just a little bit too much. I feel like I'm saying gold way too often at the moment, but that's totally fine. Now this is completely and utterly reminiscent of of the Scandinavia game that we witnessed in the first game of this series, whereby Shark went really aggressive with towers and then started taking down the archery ranges of his opponent. And this is more or less what's happening again as well. I wonder if Hank is going to do anything different, just go full on skirmishes, and that also leads me to wonder if Shark is going to be using the really, really supreme and superior Aztec economy to be able to get himself up to the Castle Age in an awfully quick amount of time, like he did in the previous game. And I would say tentatively that the answer to that is no, as he has brought quite a few villagers forward, building these towers, building these ranges, and also having diverted quite a few villagers, or 5 villagers rather, over onto stone. That means that the food income, the gold income, of which he hasn't actually moved out to take any gold yet, is not really going to be on his mind for the foreseeable future. Second archery range now coming up as well in this front portion of Hank's base, and I don't think this is going to be getting to the. I could be wrong, but I don't think this game is going to be going to the late stage where the stone's going to be important for castles. I think this game is going to be decided late feudal or early castle, to be completely honest with you. But I could be wrong. I mean, I don't know really how either of these players play. I do know that Hank is moving a small contingency of ranged units around the front lines, around his front lines, and also around the front lines here of of Shark, and he's going to go back and hit Shark back at home. And this is exactly what you should be doing if you're under pressure and you've got towers inside your base and you can only put up one tower, which is actually a really good point. We'll come to that very soon. The best thing you can do is go ahead and counterattack and see what damage you can do to your opponent's already presumably fragile economy. No, oh no, he does have fletching. Fletching has been done on these guys here, so he is going to be able to get maybe a few villager picks, but this unfortunately is a mistake. Attacking the villagers way too early. It would have been better if he had have got his army into here, and he would have been able to get more shots off on the units there from Shark. But here we go, the towers. This is what I wanted to mention before. Hank has already thrown up a defensive watchtower. He needs to mark it, buy stone if he wants to throw up any more defensive watchtowers. Otherwise, this gold is just going to come under so much pressure from the skirmishers. And does he still have his man-at-arms? He's still got his man-at-arms alive at well, does Shark Slayer. So he's going to be in a really, really nice position to be able to defense. Oh, and the watchtowers in defense coming up. Always something that you see from the trushing player as well. Their economy's weak, their economy's fragile. Or their army is forward, so they put up defensive watchtowers in their base. But as I was saying, these men-at-arms are going to provide such a nice counter to the skirmishes here that are being fielded from the red Aztec player from New Zealand here, Hank. And saying that, Hank does have some archers out, so really, the man-at-arms, if Hank does his micro right and executes it correctly, should still not provide too much of a problem, or prove to be too much of a problem for Hank. But here we go, the tower hop continues, and at the moment Hank is once again, just like the Scandinavia game, being boxed in little by little, and he's not going to be able to branch out. He's not going to be able to spread his flightless birdie wings. And be able to expand to other areas of the map while he is surrounded by watchtowers. Although, to be fair, he can escape out here absolutely no problem. Throwing up a market, like I said, he recognizes that he's going to have to start doing some market magic, potentially to buy his way either to the Castle Age, but it's not going to be that. He does have a crap ton of gold coming in. This is what I was saying. He needed to take those villages off gold and move them out onto farms or wood so that he could keep the skirmishes coming out. But in saying that, he does now have the gold to be able to buy stone and throw up another defensive watchtower in this region here. If he loses this area, then it's not going to be very nice for him at all. This gold here is going to be too easily raided by Shark as well, but for the time being, he's managing to hold his ground. But a defensive watchtower, there we go. He's bought some stone. He's bought 100 stone, and a defensive watchtower being placed up on his gold, on his main gold as well. Very important and very, very wise decision, in my opinion. Shark just doesn't have the military presence just quite yet. Or, yeah, just quite yet out in the front. Out on the front lines as Hank starts to move in and just be a bit of a nuisance and start pestering his opponent here, rebalancing his eco with the market, continually rebalancing his economy with the market, and he might even be able to click up to the castle age very, very soon. He's only a few food away. Come on, 43, 28, 13 food away is what he needs to get up to the castle age, and that could turn the tide of this game really well and truly. A couple of big mangonel shots on these skirmishes, maybe even Eagle Warriors could be really, really huge. Obviously, Eagle Warrior is very cheap on the food. The amount of food that he has got incoming here with his farms now being seeded in the Aztec economy, Eagle Warriors would be a very, very viable option in my opinion in this position for Hank. But here we go, Shark moving around with even more with the villagers going ahead and just trying to place down another watchtower. This one is obviously in range of the defensive watchtower from Hank, who's now only researching Horse Collar. And yep, we can see the barracks. Here we are. It seems that I know more or less what I'm talking about when it comes to these sorts of things, which is refreshing to say the least. A barracks coming up now for Hank in preparation, no doubt, for those Eagle Warriors, which are going to be able to start coming out once he reaches the castle age in a few minutes' time. Another thing to note as well is that Hank is now moving another small contingency of archers and one really, really brave villager, which is going to get a couple of villagers and a couple of arrows in the back of his head. No, he's not. He survived. He survived. I would really love it. I would really, really love it if woo 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 T90 is going to be loving that. I would love it if this villager here was going to go forward and build some forward barracks or even some siege workshops out on the front, because that would be hugely strong for him at the moment. He's going to be up to the castle age with +1 defense on his Eagle Warriors, which are going to be coming out for the moment only from 2 barracks. But maybe, where did that villager actually go? Where did he go? Did he die? No. Did he go forward? No. Okay, I don't know where that villager has actually disappeared to. Seems like he's just vanished off the face of the... Oh, there he is. Showing up another barracks at the back of his base. That's totally fine. Padded archer armor now coming in for Shark, but castle age upgrade having been researched for Hank. And now let's see how Shark manages to defend against the stampede, the eagle flood that's going to be coming out from the barracks. The barracks here from Hank. Hank losing this castle. That's definitely not a castle. Hank losing this defensive watchtower on his main gold at the front of his base for the time being. Obviously, Shark garrisoning his villagers inside and potentially repairing a little bit more effectively, a little bit more efficiently. But this is going to be this could potentially be the game changer. Chainmail armor now coming in for Hank as well. 3 barracks production of Eagle Warriors, and I just can't wait to see this flood just be unleashed. And I wonder if Shark is actually expecting this to happen. He's getting fletching now as well, but fletching is still going to do absolutely nothing for these skirmishes once they're in the face of Eagle Warriors. Hank also in the villager lead as well, which is really, really strong for him as he throws up a siege workshop, grabbing out a mangonel and just seeing what sort of seeing if he can start clearing away all this mess of towers that have been pinning him inside his base for the time being. Hank moving out to the right hand side of his base, very exposed, very risky, but he does need some area to be able to start farming in to continue to produce these Eagle Warriors, which I can't. There they are. The Eagle Warriors with have +2 defense, very, very nearly getting fully upgraded. Scale mail armor now coming in for Mr. Shark. Is he going to be going for some man-at-arms? Is that what he's expecting? Is he going to be getting some defensive man-at-arms? He is. He's getting some defensive man-at-arms. He's going to place them inside his economy, or at least inside his town center. Potentially, either has he scouted the fact that his opponent is going double barracks. Well, yeah, he's got vision pretty much everywhere on his opponent, and now he can see also that there are Eagle Warriors being flooded out by the Hank. He's seen the double he's seen the double barracks up as well. He knows what's coming. He knows his Eagle Warrior is on the way, and he's doing the correct he's making the correct decision and getting a few men-at-arms out and throwing up another barracks inside his economy as well. Obviously, they're going to provide somewhat of a counter to these Eagle Warriors, but what Shark really needs to do now is get himself up to the Imperial Age. Actually, that would be fantastic if he could get himself up to the Imperial Age, but if he can get himself up to the Castle Age and go ahead and start ticking even further down that champion line, then he's going to be in a really, really good position to be able to counter these Eagles even more effectively. Even crossbows with +2 and a decent mass can really melt through Eagle Warriors in the Castle Age. But Hank now just poised, waiting on the precipice of war is Hank as he starts to move out all of his army now. Mobilizing and moving forward is Hank, and here we go. We're about to see the push, and Hank starting to move out now, and now deciding not to move out now for any longer. Okay, but the the other thing to mention as well is that there are quite a few. Oh, there's a few towers inside of Shark's economy, so Shark is going to be in an okay spot to be able to take a defensive stance once these Eagles do start coming in. Now here we go. The Eagles do come in now. These skirmishers are just going to get absolutely chewed up and spat back out. But in move the men-at-arms. A good number of men-at-arms in here for Shark, and this could be the turning point as well. The skirmishers obviously not doing anything, but the men-at-arms are doing absolute work against these Eagle Warriors. But is it the technology upgrade? Are the upgrades here really, really in favor enough for our Kiwi player, for our New Zealand player, the Red Aztec player Hank? And by the looks of it, it looks like it is. Again, man-at-arms, sure, they do a bit of a counter, they do a bit of damage, a bit of extra damage against these Eagle Warriors, but the Eagle Warriors with the +2 defense, and I don't think they have any extra, no offensive upgrades on them just yet, whereas we saw Forging coming in for the man-at-arms, has been managed to push away Shark, that is, has managed to push away his opponent who's going Eagle Warriors. Now Hank buying 100 stone, managing to clear out all this mess of towers. Shark Slayer finally up to the Castle Age, and a new TC about to be thrown up for Hank. I can only imagine somewhere in the, somewhere down here, which is a nice location. It protects the gold, and it also gives him a little bit of security in taking some safe wood as well. So Hank going to be in a good position to be able to start further solidifying this villager lead that he currently holds over his opponent. Now, what is he going to do? He's still got these Eagle Warriors that are buzzing around, and they're still not really doing a heck of a lot. And I mean, Hank has invested into some quite hefty upgrades for these guys as well. The +1 and +2 defensive armor having been researched for him, he needs to start spreading them out. He needs to start doing some raiding. For example, this gold is quite exposed. It's under cover of maybe one watchtower, but that is about it. Oh, I think we saw in the previous games actually that Zane and Mr. Dodo, Zane for example, was splitting his army and trying to keep his opponent, the attention of his opponent focused in more places than one, and that's more or less what I think the Hank should be doing here as well if he's going to be going this aggressive. Although in saying that, he is up on 2 TCs, he's got one extra town centre right back at home, and he's creating villages out of it, and the western side of his economy is nice and safe, free of the rain of all of those pesky little towers. As we can see, the Castle Age upgrade now comes in for Shark Slayer, and what is his technology choice going to be? Well, he is throwing up another archery range. He's still got the 2 archery ranges out on the front, just outside of Hank's economy, Hank's base here. But maybe he fears for the survival of these archery ranges, as he knows that Hank has got a couple of mangonels out and is just absolutely pounding on everything else that that Shark has actually built forward. Maybe he fears for that, and maybe he's building replacement archery ranges back at home. But in actual fact, we can see the long swordsman chael mail armor upgrades now being done for Shark, and this is going to provide a huge counter against these Eagle Warriors. But if we look underneath that, the Hank is going for crossbow and bodkin arrow. And that is going to be absolutely fantastic. I'm not sure whether that was inadvertent or whether it was really, really well decided and well planned out from Hank. But the crossbows, they are going to absolutely shred through these long swords, and maybe Hank knew that. Maybe he knew, hey, this guy's already ticked into man-at-arms, he's gone for a few upgrades, he's probably going to continue to go down that route for the time being. Maybe I should tick into crossbows and counter him and really push out and see what damage I can do against his army. And it's a very, very clever and wise decision, in my opinion, as well from Hank. But for the time being, the 22 villager lead remains remains at, well, 22 villages, because we don't see any extra town centres being thrown up for Shark. Obviously doesn't quite have the resources for it. He's got a lot of stone, could nearly throw down a defensive or even an offensive castle, and in fact he's actually building a town centre, my mistake, out here on the front, just outside of the economy, or just on the fringes of the base of Hank. Iron casting also coming in, as well as crossbow, and this is going to be quite interesting to see how this army composition of long swords and crossbows do against the Eagle Warriors and crossbow composition from Hank. In my opinion, the Eagle Warriors and crossbow army is going to be vastly superior, even though the long swords do actually counter the Eagle Warriors. The Eagle Warriors are just so quick, and these poor long swordsmen with their short stubby legs just cannot catch up to the units that they're meant to be countering. Hank grabbing Wheelbarrow now as well, going to provide a really nice boost to his already strong Aztec farming economy. And we can see 2 town centers apiece for each of these players, although this one still isn't quite up for for our blue player just yet. Now, what is Hank doing? Well, Hank is starting to mobilize. He's got a good number of Eagle Warriors here. He has done forging, and he's getting iron casting, and now Bodkin era coming in for Shark Slayer finally. But we can see the small amount of crossbows that the small amount of crossbows here that Hank actually does have is going to provide quite a nice firepower against these men and against these long swords. It's going to come down to micro. It's going to come down to how well both of these guys can control their army. Shark paying enough attention to be able to quick wall in his economy, and these are the pot shots that the crossbows really need to get. But he needs to retreat now, does Hank, and he needs to get his Eagle Warriors in there to start taking down these skirmishes and ranged units of his opponent. But at the same time, he needs to make sure that his crossbows are firing over the top into these long swords. Otherwise, this could be a really costly and deadly engagement for Hank. It's going to be interesting. There's meat shields in front of both units, and obviously, if the long swords can get in front of the this is an absolute massacre. That was the wrong decision from Hank. He really needed to pull out, and he needed to try and bring his Eagle Warriors away and let his crossbows do the talking when it came to taking down these long swords. But that was a huge costly fight there. Really dramatic, and has definitely not gone in Hank's favour, and he has to retreat home with his tail between his legs, as we can see a forward siege workshop now being thrown up, obviously forward from Shark, sensing that he has somewhat of an advantage now, knowing full well, or secure in the knowledge, that he has actually cleaned up the majority of, or what he thinks to be the majority of Hank's army. But at least Hank is reproducing. He's replenishing his army back at home under cover of the 2 TCs that he has at the moment. Squire's coming in for Shark, recognizing that the biggest weakness against the Eagle Warriors that the longswords have is their speed. Squire's obviously giving the infantry a little bit more of a boost, getting up into the face of the opponent's unit, and we can see the Imperial Age upgrade now coming in, as well as Squires for Hank. Now this could be a really interesting strategy as well, and it has completely blown my prediction out of the water of that this is going to be going only into late feudal or early castle. We're now into mid to late castle age, and I have been completely wrong in that respect. Now what is Hank going to do? That is the big question. He knows exactly what units his opponent is going. He knows that the counter units, the the long swords are out, and this is exactly why Aztec games in the late game rather normally go and transition into castle units, i.e. those intensely powerful Jaguar warriors, because Jaguar warriors, obviously, really nice pick off here by the way from Shark. Jaguar warriors are anti-infantry. Now if one Aztec player decides, hey, I'm going to go Eagles, the other Aztec player goes, right, I'm going to go long swords to be able to counter that. Pardon me. Longswords and champions, and then the other Aztec player's like, right, I'm going to switch back into Jaguar warriors, and then the only other option really for the Aztec player is to go ahead to be able to counter the Jaguars, is to go Scorps, which is always fun to see, Onagers if you want to get some good Onager shots, or Arbalest. And obviously the Jaguar warriors are just so much more powerful than Arbalest, then they normally go down the route of going for the Jaguar warriors. So I'm going to be interested to see what Hank actually does here. It seems like he's sticking to his guns. He's got all the upgrades so far on his Eagle warriors. He will be able to get Garland Wars once he gets a castle up, but of course for that to happen he needs to start mining stone, which he clearly is not. But here comes the huge ram train. The ram train is starting. Let's get some ram hype going, because we can see that, you know what they say, mangonels are for pressuring, rams are for ending, and Shark obviously wants to try and close this game out as quickly as he can, as he starts getting out a couple of battering rams, and he's going to send them straight into the economy of his opponent here, TheeHank, who is now advancing into the Imperial Ages, researching Elite Eagle Warrior immediately. And this is going to be the big thing. You might be thinking, yeah, Eagle Warriors, man, they're going to be able to counter these pesky rams really easily. Yep, you're totally right. But of course, Shark has a good number, a really good number. Another Forward Siege Workshop coming up, by the way. A really good number of these long swordsmen coming in as well. So whilst the Eagle Warriors are going to be busy trying to take down these rams that are moving into his base, the long swords are just going to absolutely shred and rip through these elite Eagle Warriors. And that's a really, really nice strategy choice here from Shark. And obviously the crossbows here are going to start moving around, and hopefully Hank can take a more favourable engagement as he starts running his Eagle Warriors around, learning from last time where he doesn't want to take a straight up fight using the Eagle Warriors as meat. Unfortunately, that means that this town centre here from Hank is going to go down under the fire of these 5 rams. And here we go. This is the positioning that you want the elite Eagle Warriors to be in. You want them to get amongst the archers and get a decent surround on them and start whittling them down. Unfortunately, Shark is too on point with his army control and brings his long swordsman back into the fray, and this is what's going to scare away these Eagle Warriors, elite Eagle Warriors or no. The amount of long swords that Shark has forward here is going to be doing a decent amount of damage to these elite eagles, and this is going to be really, really hard now for Hank to counter, even though he does have the Imperial Age upgrade as well as the elite Eagle Warriors buzzing around inside his economy. And now, if this next town centre goes down, that's going to be really, really huge, a huge blow to the economy of Hank, as Hank garrisons inside the town centre to try and do a little bit of extra damage to these long swords. And now he's moved his army back a little bit too much, in my opinion. He's going to have to bring his Eagle Warriors in, but once again, these long swords are just going to be scaring his Eagles away. He needed either more Arbalests, he needed some Scorps, he needed some Onagers, he needed something to be able to clear out all of this army, all this mess of blue that he sees inside of his base, did Hank. We could see another couple of barracks being thrown up at the back of his base, and now no town centres for our Kiwi, I could be wrong, no town centres for our Kiwi player here, Hank, and it is 72 villages to 69, and Hank's villager number is going to be dropping and dropping and dropping, and it's not going to be going back up until he gets enough resources to build those all-important TCs. Arbalest now coming in for him as well at this stage in the game, maybe a little late as the Rams run rampant inside of his economy. These Eagle Warriors can just not get close to these Rams. Shark is doing a fantastic job keeping them nice and safe by keeping the long swordsman nice and close to these Rams as well, and it's looking really, really dicey for our player from New Zealand here, Hank. He's taking a somewhat favourable engagement here, losing a lot of his army, and still Shark comes out on top with these long swords and brings over more long swords to start taking down these Arbalists. This is pretty much all of Hank's army left. What do we see back at home? We see a lot of idle economy coming in here from Shark, but it doesn't matter when you've wiped out both town centres from your opponent. And he is fielding only Eagle Warriors, to which you have almost the perfect counter. Hank now bringing his villagers into fight and start taking down these Rams. Maybe he's thinking, hey, my Eagle Warriors didn't do anything against those long swords or those Rams. Maybe my villagers can do it. And this is what he should have done in the beginning, clearly, because it's working out extremely well for him. Shark trying to bring his Rams away from harm, but it's not really happening. These Aztec warriors, these Aztec eagles, these Aztec villagers even getting in there, getting amongst it all, and managing to take down those Rams finally. But at what cost? Well, the answer to that is at the cost of 2 town centres and a truckload of villagers. We can see now, to be fair, only 6 villagers behind is Hank. The economy here from Shark still has not been kicked into overdrive yet as he goes forward and throws down more barracks. Is he anywhere near the Imperial Age? Well, the answer to that is no, he is not. But if he sold some wood, if he bought some food, he could get himself up to the Imperial Age awfully quickly, and then go ahead and start continuing down that champion line, which we can obviously see is what he wants to do. This fight here is going to turn out in favor of Hank, and this could be the turning point as well. These Eagle Warriors have got a nice amount of upgrades, especially with plate mail armor coming in for +4 defense on these bad boys, as he sends a small contingency of Eagles into the economy, into the base of his opponent Shark, and this is going to be really, really hurtful for Shark as well. There's not too much back here to protect these villages, and once you get Eagles in your economy, it's like breadcrumbs in your bed. They are just so hard and so irritating to get the heck out of there. And that could be the turning point for Hank. He's managed to weather the storm, for want of a better term, for the time being, pardon me. He's throwing up another town centre now, trying to get that villager lead back, but it is 61 villagers to 67. Third town centre was thrown up for Shark at the back of his base, and these Eagles are still buzzing around, still causing all sorts of trouble, all sorts of idle time inside the economy of Shark, and Shark continuing to send forward these rams with no protection of the longswords is, in my opinion, a little bit of a mistake. But at the same time, Hank has still got some units buzzing around. By some, I mean there's one longswordsman from Shark Slayer buzzing around inside of his economy. And this is what I was saying as well. The only advantage really that the Eagle Warriors have over these longswords is the ability to get in and then get the hell out when things start to get a little bit too hot in the kitchen. And we can see that now the Eagle Warrior is just able to completely outstrip and outrun those counter units that are the long swords. And Shark is still absolutely no way near the Imperial Age. I honestly thought that this push into Hank's economy might have done enough to cripple Hank, and it has crippled him quite severely. You can see he's still under 70. He's still under 70 villages. And sure, Aztecs have a fantastic eco when it comes to farms, but you also still need to have some sort of economy to be able to support your military production. Where are these cheeky wee villagers going? They're going forward to build something. They're going forward to build a mining camp on what was what is one of Hank's extra golds as well. And I can see +4 defense now having been done, everything except Garland Wars being done on these Eagle Warriors. So now he should be in an okay position to be able to sit underneath town centers, sit underneath towers even, and be able to take these fights, or be able to do that raiding so much more efficiently and effectively. The only thing is he still has to contend, he still has to find some sort of a counter to these pesky long swords, and this is what I was saying. The Arbalists, for example, or maybe Jaguar Warriors, or maybe Scorps would be a fantastic addition to this very one-dimensional army composition that the Hank is currently fielding. Although in saying that, it's doing the trick. He has managed to take back the score lead, and now he knows that there's a little bit of a farming economy set up in secret just outside of his base by his opponent. Now, what is Hank actually going to do with these Eagles? Well, he's going to lose a few, granted, to these long swords, but again, this is not what you want to do. You don't want to be taking these fights straight up. You want to be running past these guys. You want to be getting into the economy of your opponent and really starting to take it to him that way. But it's starting to look really, really good for Hank. All of a sudden, he's managed to pull his way back from the monumental trush that Shark decided to go for. And I think in that respect, Shark has almost shot himself in the foot as he sacrificed too much economy to do enough damage to his opponent. And saying that, Imperial Age upgrade is now coming in for Shark as Hank decides to hightail it back home and start trying to take down this town centre with his elite Eagle Warriors. And this is an interesting decision. There are definitely more effective and more efficient ways to take down a town centre than by using nearly fully upgraded elite Eagle Warriors, especially since, what is this guy doing? Shark, you sneaky, cheeky, beaky badger. What are you up to? Oh, you're just going to build a mining camp. There's no gold there, mate, but I suppose you didn't know that before you went ahead and built that mining camp anyway. But as I was saying, there are more efficient ways to take down a town centre whilst still being able to keep the pressure on your opponent. And what can we see in terms of villages? Well, 63 to 59. Hank is starting to boom back into this, albeit very, very slowly. Now that his opponent is only on 2 town centres, we can see that Shark is not going to be able to maintain too much more of a hefty villager lead. Although in saying that, this is cute. I like this. This is harmonious. Shark kind of banking on the fact that Hank is not going to be checking back here all too often to see that he is taking wood here. But like I said, what I would really want to see here, he's throwing up an archery range as Hank because he gets padded archer armor for +1 defense on his archer units. But I'd really want to see some siege. Some siege coming in here would be really fantastic and really strong. As there's just siege rams, man. Siege rams in here. Obviously, his economy a little bit weak at the moment, but siege rams starting to take out the barracks. The barracks is the military production buildings of your opponent would just be so super strong right now. Although I suppose he's thinking, I've got Arbalest, I can get some more upgrades on those bad boys, and then I should be able to take fights where I can use the Elite Eagle Warriors as some sort of a bait. Some sort of a meat shield against these long swords, which are definitely soon to be champions. I can only imagine. Let's just wait and see whether the champion upgrade. Well, the two-handed swordsman upgrade coming in first makes total sense, and plate mail armor coming in for the +4 defense on these infantry units for Shark as well. Pretty much straight away. In terms of relics, I don't think Shark actually has any relics. No relics for Shark, but I do believe Hank has at least one, and I think that might be the only relic he does actually have, and indeed it is. Only one relic for Hank as well. So the later this game goes, at least in terms of passive gold income, the better position Hank is going to be in, unless he decides to throw away his units like this. Now, if Long Swordsman could pack a bit of a punch against your Elite Eagle Warriors, the two-handed swordsman with +4 defense, or rather, it's not going to be +4 defense, it's going to be +3 for the melee armor, are going to be able to deal so much more output DPM on your units. And here we go. This is not an engagement that Hank wants to take, and he recognizes the situation, starts to fall back to his arbalists, which are going to be at this stage the only counter that he has to this mass of this mass of infantry that his opponent is currently fielding. At the same time, arbalists also coming in now for Shark, and that's an interesting choice in my opinion. I suppose it's going to be a nice decent counter coming into for the arbalists of his opponent, but what the heck happened there? That was a huge fight in which what I can only assume was a good number of both players' military units going down, although Hank manages to escape and keep a few more of his Eagle Warriors in the back of his opponent's economy, doing a little bit of raiding there, which is always what you want to be doing with the Eagle Warriors. You don't want to be taking straight up fights. You want to be raiding. You want to be getting your opponent's economy and starting to cripple it incredibly fast. And more Eagle Warriors continually being produced here from the Hank as well. And this is looking really strong for him as we see ballistics coming in again, trying to upgrade those arbalists just as well as he absolutely can. And the champion upgrade now coming in for our blue player Shark Slayer. Ah, there you go, blue player Shark Slayer as well. So it's looking like at this stage the villager counts are still so low. Neither of these players really have a strong, huge, booming economy. They're both focusing very heavily on their military production, their military control, and continuing to keep those units coming out. We can see Bracer finally coming in for Hank as well. He had me questioning whether or not the Aztecs actually do get Bracer, and indeed they do, and it's going to provide a really nice offensive upgrade here with which he can start whittling away and taking down these pesky two-handed swordsmen, or these soon-to-be champions from his opponent. And let's see how this engagement here goes. Shark, he's pulled back. Okay, that's a fair enough decision. He's pulled back because that was not a fight he really wanted to be taking, and this hill here could prove to be extremely crucial in these fights. If Hank can get his arbalists back on the hill and really do some damage, that's not a fight you should be taking. That is not a fight that Hank should be taking. Just look at these Eagle Warriors getting absolutely chewed up. Although in saying that, maybe he can hold it. Maybe he has enough Eagle Warriors here to act as a bait, to act as a meat shield, such that the arbalists can do their job, can do the damage that he needs them to do. But I'm not really sure whether that was worth it. Eagle Warriors not exactly cheap when it comes to gold, and neither player really having any definitive map control in terms of taking extra portions of his gold. Of the gold on the map, so I'm not really sure what Hank's decision was behind taking that fight. He should have just retreated his Eagle Warriors, or at least ran his Eagle Warriors around to start getting in and taking down the arbalists here from the blue player Shark. Especially since he has ballistics, so even if the champions followed his eagles, the arbalists would still be able to land the shots. And now Shark has managed to take back control of this pivotal hill and force Hank away from this gold. Now Hank, we're on his point of view now. We can see his gold is very little, and he's still got, to be fair, he's still got a 3 patch of gold out here, in which there is 2,400 gold. If he is aware, I'm sure he scouted that when he was hiding his. Oh, what? He's not scouted it. That is really, really unlucky. He is taking the initiative and sending an Eagle Warrior out and about to try and scout for more gold. But this is crucially, crucially detrimental to Hank right now. He really needs some gold. He needs the gold to be able to get unit. He needs the gold to be able to pump out the gold units. He needs the gold. He needs the gold for the Eagle Warriors. He needs the gold for the Arbalists. Whereas now Sharkslayer is in an okay position because he's managed to move out and start finding himself some extra golds on the map as well. And if we switch over to his point of view, does he know actually where any of these extra golds are? Well, no, he also doesn't know that this gold exists. So I guess it's not an advantage or a disadvantage to either player if neither of them know that this gold even exists. And I do believe that this gold here and this gold here, apart from this puppy here, are the only golds that are actually left on the map for these two players to take. And this is starting to turn into a fantastic, fantastic game. A late game Aztec Imperial War in which Eagle Warriors and Arbalists are taking the main stage, and we aren't going to be seeing any Jaguar Warriors for the time being. In fact, Jaguar Warriors would be a completely wrong decision, as the Arbalists would just be able to chew through them really, really easily. So we can see no more villagers coming forward for Shark yet. I thought he might be coming forward and trying to take control of that gold, or start taking that gold if he can. Hank just retreating back to another hill that he has fortuitously found inside of his base, or inside of what used to be his old economy, with a half-built, not even a half-built, with a partially built mill there as well. Elite Eagle Warrior coming in for our blue player Shark, and this is going to be a devastating unit composition. We're going to have champions here, we're going to have elite Eagle Warriors, and we're going to have Arbalists. The champion's going to be able to chew through these elite Eagle Warriors from Hank. The Arbalists and the elite Eagle Warriors of Shark are going to be able to deal so much damage against the Arbalists of Hank, which are so far out of position. It is just costing him so much. We don't see any other sort of forward excursions back into Shark's base. The economies of both players starting to look a little ragged, starting to look a little worse for wear. But that fight there was really, really well taken by Shark, just getting his champions in front to do the damage that he needed against the elite Eagle Warriors from Hank, and Hank's Arbalists being caught out of position, meaning that those champions got away scot-free with a good number of kills. Once again, we see idle villagers buzzing around for Hank, trying to look for some gold. Holy hell, are you serious? I just want to keep showing that because that's literally one tile in a strip of unexplored area that Hank has not scouted, and he needs that gold. At the moment, he's relying on his, I believe, still only one relic for any sort of gold income. Although, to be fair, he is getting a nice amount of raiding coming in here. Oh, now that raiding is going to be put to a little bit of a halt. Although idle time, always really nice, always really good to get on your opponent, especially in the late stages of the game. And anyway, back to the main action. What do we have? Well, we have the Elite Eagle Warriors. Are they fully upgraded? Oh, no, they are not. They are missing Blast Furnace for one thing. They're also missing Garland Wars, and I don't know if they are missing anything else apart from that. All the defensive upgrades are all in. It's just a couple of offensive upgrades even that are missing, and Hank really starting to scrape the bottom of the barrel in terms of resources now. Whereas Shark, the man himself, is sitting pretty, and he's getting some champion rating coming in here as well into the economy of Hank, and this is going to be such a nuisance and such a subtle thing for Hank to have to notice, but he will notice it when his food economy, when his wood economy, all that income is starting to finally he found it, is starting to dwindle and get whittled away. Now here we go, the Elite Eagle Warriors of both players just running past each other as Heavy Plow over an hour into the game finally comes in for Shark. Fantastic, strong play. Just goes to show that if you want to win, you should not get your economy upgrades. Again, both players just happy sitting on around 60, 70 villages, and this is really unfortunate for Hank. As soon as he finds this gold, he has to hightail it and get the hell out of there, because the Elite Eagle Warriors, the Arbalists, the champions from Shark, are now coming over to deal some real damage to them there. Although in saying that, Hank moves out across the map and sends a little bit of a raiding party going into the gold mining operation of his opponent. But here we go. Again, like I said, the diversity and the complexity of the army composition here from Shark is just going to be so much more superior. to that of Hank, especially now. This is the big thing. This is the huge thing that we need to focus on, that we need to point out. This gold has now been completely and utterly denied by Shark Slayer from Hank. Sorry, from from Shark Slayer on Hank. This gold, Hank's not going to be able to take that. Hank has no more access to gold anywhere. We can see out here TC was placed on what used to be a gold mine there by Shark. Shark's moved down and started taking what used to be one of, I believe, the tertiary gold of Hank, and now he has denied this last lifeline of Hank, and now Hank is not going to be able to replenish his army. And again, Shark is going to just storm through, and Hank, recognizing the situation, calling GG, and well played indeed from both of these players. Hank's defense at the beginning, under the influence of a tower rush, getting up to the castle edge and using his tech advantage, was very, very strong, and he held on well. For one, I thought he might have been able to take it, but there was an engagement just here on this hill. This was the turning point, really. It could have gone either way up until this point. I think maybe potentially Shark had a bit more of an advantage, but this point here, this was not what he wanted to do. He needed to run his units around and take that fight. Then he could have used the momentum and pushed right into the economy and started whittling it away from Shark. But Shark managing to take a good fight, managing to take the right fight, held his time, held his ground, and picked the fight that he wanted to take, took it well, and managed to snowball his advantage from there. So well played to Shark. It makes the games 2-1 in favour of Shark, our player from Australia. And what we will do now is once again we'll switch the scene back over, and we'll come back into the next game in a few minutes' time.